What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and a new Dragon Plus, issue 36, released today. If you're unfamiliar, Dragon Plus is a monthly magazine that Wizards of the Coast puts out. It's sort of the, in my mind, poor representation of what the Dragon and Dungeon magazines were in the past, but it's something we get monthly, and it's free, so hey, beggars can't be choosers here. Also, if you like what I do here in my news coverage, like I'm doing for this video, or my other stuff like Top 10s, which I promise, the one that was from Tuesday is still coming. It's level 4 spells. It's pretty good. Consider subscribing to the channel. We broke 68,000. I'd like to hit 100,000 by my birthday in July, and let's get me that play button for my 35th birthday. That being said, there is a bunch of news in here. I'm going to do a separate video covering these 17 adventures in Candlekeep Mysteries, rather. In Candlekeep Mysteries. But there's some Van Richten stuff in this, so let's go ahead and take a look. So, here we can see they're going to talk a little bit about Van Richten's guide to Ravenloft. Looks like there's a full team of horror fans involved in it, and it says, we've already had Strahd von Zarovich, and it says, the horrors lurk in the domains of dread that make up Ravenloft are widespread, as outlined in the early box sets Ravenloft Realm of Terror and Ravenloft, and the second edition campaign Ravenloft Domains of Dread. Setting was described as a collection of domains ruled by dark lords, each surrounded by magical mists amid the vapors of the ethereal plane. As the title suggests, it looks beyond Strahd, and they talk about how Van Richten is basically a Van Helsing, which you kind of could figure out. Okay, so Horror Handbook. Where is it? Yeah, Van Richten's guide opens more than just the gothic horror crypt. It is, of course, still a major element of Ravenloft, but cosmic horror, dark fantasy, ghost stories, occult detective stories, psychological horror, and all are now on the table. If you love any sort of horror, this book is for you. Finding the horror that's right for you is a major element of the book. Your horror story might feature cartoonist investigators hunting down mysterious monsters, aka Scooby-Doo, or they might be more serious, suspenseful nightmares. The book discusses how to get your entire group involved in establishing guidelines using safety tools to make sure everyone's comfortable and enjoys the game. We provide frameworks to help make your horror adventures fun, accessible, and safe, while also supporting players who voice concerns if things make them uncomfortable. So I don't think it's going to be as downplayed and Scooby-Doo-ish as people were thinking in the comments from the last video, but we'll see. All right, so this incarnation of Ravenloft reimagines a great deal of what came before. This already has pissed people off, and I'm sure it will, because reimagining that's not what the people remember when they played the original is going to bother them. So just keep that in mind. Past explorations of the setting directly linked many of the domains of Ravenloft into a pseudo-continent called the Core. We've taken the core, the heart of the Ravenloft setting, and shattered it. Oh, well, here we go. In this new interpretation, every domain is a lonely island drifting through the mists. Many of the domains get a modern-day brush-up. We took the settings, characters, locations, monsters, and other pieces, shook them up, and took some new direction. For example, I've already heard comments on this, so this might answer that question. In the 90s, the domain of Falcovnia was a totalitarian regime ruled by a Dark Lord named Vlad Drakov, who had a Vlad the Impaler vibe. Well, we already have a Vlad-type figure in Castle Ravenloft and Barovia, and Strahd being very Dracula-esque, so we saw this as an opportunity to give the domain a stronger identity and embrace a different brand of horror. In its new form, Falcovnia is ruled by a Dark Lord named Vladeska Drakov, a notorious military commander who's struggling to defend its last surviving city against a domain-wide zombie apocalypse. And, you know, zombie apocalypse stuff is pretty... It was popular, now it's kind of old hat, but makes sense, right? Build your own dark domain, which is something I was curious about, and we'll get some more info here. Well over a dozen domains get the spotlight in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Even though it said 30, I feel like you could just say 30 within over a dozen. But with a whole chapter on making your own domains in Dark Lords, the book gives you tools to unleash an infinite number of nightmare realms upon your game. In that chapter, we discuss the fundamentals of what makes a Ravenloft domain and how to create your own Dark Lord. Once you have those concepts, we explore a spectrum of horror genres to help inspire your own unique creations. Want a villain with a body horror vibe in a cosmic horror setting where you can run into occult detective stories? We give you the tools to build that terrifying story. Only once we've explained how to do all of that do we present domain after domain by way of example. So I got to imagine we have the zombie apocalypse. We might have a supernatural style situation. That was a large part of pop culture for a long time. That only makes sense. Cthulhu and Lovecraftian stuff, they mentioned cosmic horror and stuff like that, so we might have Lovecraft. We might have like alien, like xenomorph style stuff. these are all really good different kinds of horror, so I'm hoping we get to see at least some of that represented here. Here be monsters. Also, I love this art. Look at this art. This is fantastic. Okay. The bestiary for Ravenloft is a who's who of horror. It includes our favorite nightmares from Ravenloft's past, as well as beings from folklore and urban legend. For example, longtime D&D fans might recognize monsters such as the Carionette and the Grimishka from the 2nd edition Ravenloft compendiums. Carionettes are creepy marionettes that jab you with silver needles and swap consciousness with you, taking over your body and stranding you in a doll body. While Grimishka are creepy gremlin things that are allergic to magic. If you cast a spell on them, they might have an adverse reaction that includes potentially exploding into a swarm. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft also includes a number of new takes on various D&D monsters and horror staples, including a variety of new zombies and vampiric mind flayers. Folks, can we say that one more time? Vampiric mind flayers. You've got me, 100%. Also, here's some hag maybe art or some like people in the woods, adventuring party. I don't know, cool art. Playable monsters. Eberron pulled a sideways horror move by including a construct person, a lycanthrope, and even a changeling, giving its race section a horror undercurrent. West says as he confirmed that the Gothic lineages published in the UA will appear in Van Richten's Guide. The fear of corruption, the fear of infection, the fear of change, those all play fascinating parts into horror stories. The Dampier lineage has its traits inspired by vampires with a bite attack and the ability to feed off the living. The Hexblood is tied up with fey magic and might be at risk of transforming into a hag down the road, while the Reborn has died at some point and might take the form of a pseudo-undead creature or a Frankenstein monster-style construct. I hadn't thought about making it Frankenstein monster, so that's interesting. One thing that makes these lineages different from other races is that this is something I've explained in the past, and I thought it was a cool concept. You can gain these through the course of play. DMs aren't meant to impose these changes on players, but if an adventure develops in a way that the change makes sense, it's a new, potentially terrifying option the group might explore, right? So sometimes I feel like a lot of people think of like Dampier, they might be thinking of like Daywalker, Blade style stuff where you're born into it. But you obviously could inherit these abilities throughout, and you could start off as a human, and then you have your human stuff. But it essentially, something that I feel like is going to be a problem that a lot of people are going to have issues with is you'd start off with whatever you had for your origin race, if you will. And then if you were to then gain the Hexblood or the Returned or the Dampier lineage, you then shed all of the stuff you had from your previous race and adopt the new sets from this lineage. For everybody asking, don't forget that when you take the lineage, you still get ability scores. It's just +2 to one of your choice, +1 to another. It's not there are no ability scores. That's just how that works. I'm not horribly upset with this because I've said many times I like the D&D 3.5e Dragonborn, and I've been trying to adopt it into 5th edition, and these kind of give me a good idea for how to do that. But with that, you basically shed your base race to become a Dragonborn, so it made sense to me. Anyway, moving on. Dark Gifts. In Van Richten's Guide, we present Dark Gifts. If you're familiar with the piety system in Theros, you'll be aware of supernatural gifts. These are blessings from deities which grant a kind of mythological themed superpower. Van Richten's Guide takes a twist on that concept with the Dark Gifts. A Dark Gift is a horror-themed ability that offers a character a lot of upside, but of course there's a catch. Every Dark Gift provides a real benefit, but also a chance for something to take a sinister turn you didn't expect. For example, we have an example here. One Dark Gift provides you with the memories from your past life, whispers of information you really shouldn't know. Sometimes these can be great. Maybe you've never played the piano before, but somehow when you sit down at the keyboard, you can now play. By the same token, under certain circumstances, you might start having visions from a past life that distracts you from what you're doing. Many Dark Gifts also provide grim role-playing opportunities and ways to customize your character. You could certainly take those memories I just mentioned and say they come from a past life, or you can interpret them in a spectrum of different ways. Is there some mysterious intelligence that's been merged with your own, or is an alien entity communicating with you, sneaking memories into your head? It's your choice. Each Dark Gift is the first line of a horror story. It's up to you to decide the full tale of terror you want to tell. Coming on May 18th for an MSRP of $49. Again, I'll have the link to the Amazon affiliate link, in the description, which means if you click on it and buy it from that, I benefit monetarily if you're kind enough to do so. So there you go, folks. It's not a ton of information. That's about standard for what we get from a Dragon Plus article. We might get more in the March and the April edition, but at that point, we'll probably be gearing up for what the next book is that's coming out later in the year. I'm calling it as Dragonlance right now, but either way, it's interesting. I'd like to see a little bit of the concept. I figured the Dark Gifts, again, similar to that, would be like what we saw with the Amber Temple. I've said that before. In Curse of Strahd, where you get a power or some sort of gift from an entity that is more powerful than you, and then it comes with a downside. It's a dark gift, right? It's not called a super happy fun time gift. It's called a dark gift. There's a reason why. But anyway, I like the art that we saw. It looks really great. I'm a big fan. I think the art in this book is going to be fantastic. The art's really been knocking it out of the park left and right, in my opinion, with stuff lately. So I'm pretty excited. I'm not super jazzed about the lineages. They just didn't wow me. I don't have any problem with the concept of lineages versus races in D&D. I just didn't think they were interesting enough to make me want to play them. The only one that I thought was kind of interesting was the Dampier one, because you could do the interesting smiting with your bite smite, as I call it just now for the first time. But it'd be interesting to bite someone as a vampire, but then deal radiant damage through your bite via a paladin smite, which I think could be a lot of fun. Just because it's kooky and weird. But I feel like you missed the opportunity. I know they said that, shifters are technically lycanthropes, but they're not really. And I mean, they are, but they're not like a werewolf, like everybody's thinking of a werewolf, like this is a vampire, like people are thinking of a vampire. I think you kind of missed the boat not doing a werewolf, right? You probably have lost the hex blood. You keep the Frankenstein monster, you keep the vampire, give us a werewolf or a mummy or something. I think that would have resonated more with people, just because that's what that's my personal opinion. You let me know in the comments. If you had to pick a traditional horror type, throw out the concept. It's going to be a lineage, right? It's going to be a lineage, and it's going to allow you to adopt the sort of monstrous character, if you will, following a horror trope, right? We have the undead reborn sort of crow style, or maybe Frankenstein monster. We have the vampire. What would you make the third one? I think werewolf would be the best. The lycanthrope would be the one to choose, not like fey magic fetch puppet thing. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, more coverage on this as soon as it comes out, as best I can. I would love to play in a Van Richten's Guide adventure at some point, but I may end up running that as well, so stay tuned here. By the way, I do stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, where you would see that, and I do have an entire secondary channel called Nerd Immersion Plays that is filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of D&D playthrough content on there for you to check out. So I've got a lot of that between the main channel here and that channel. So anyway, if you're looking for D&D content to consume, there you go. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.